Welcome. It's time again for Bible story time. And I want to tell you today's amazing story from the second book of the Bible called the book of Exodus. Now look at the scene. God's people, the Israelites, have been delivered from slavery where they had been for over 400 years in Egypt. And it is Moses who God uses with his brother Aaron. Here they are here. Here's Moses. And here's his brother Aaron. I don't know whether you can remember how old Moses is. 80. And his brother Aaron, 83. So it doesn't matter how old you are, God still wants to use you to fulfill his wonderful plans and purposes. He still loves you and wants you to be part of his family. So let me just build the picture board up and then I'm going to tell you what happens next. You see, God has led the Israelites out of slavery, and they're on their way to the promised land today called Israel. But God doesn't just want to give them stuff. He wants to be their God, and he wants them to know that they are his special people. And so God doesn't bring them to the land to start with. He brings them to himself. And so I want you to imagine there are thousands of people. In fact, 2 to 3 million of them all together. Look at this. I'm going to build the picture up. We've got men, we've got women, we've got young, we've got old, we've got children, we've got all sorts of people that have come out of Egypt. Look at them all. Here we are. These are God's people, the Israelites, led by Moses and led by his brother Aaron as well. And I told you last week that God led them through the desert. He opened up the Red Sea with a miracle. Here's Moses' rod. Well, actually, it's mine, but we'll pretend it's Moses's. And Moses leads them with his brother. He leads them perhaps to the same place where Moses himself had met with God in the desert. And he brings them to Mount Sinai, where of course they camp, and I want you to imagine that they've all got tents. There are thousands, 2 to 3 million. By night, God leads them with a pillar of fire. By day, he leads them with a pillar of cloud. And whenever the cloud moves, so God's people Israel also move as well. Whenever the fire moves at night, they have to take their tents down, pack up everything, and they would move from place to place. In fact, they would be led by God. He would be in the cloud and in the fire at this time. So Moses and Aaron bring them to Mount Sinai. Here they are now. He has been providing food for them every day. That food is called the bread of heaven, manna. Moses told the people, because God said to him, I'm going to provide food every day for you. Do you know God still does that? He provides for us every day as we trust in him. They were told to come out of their tents in the morning, and as the dew began to melt on the ground, they would find this sort of wafer bread. It was called manna. They were told to collect as much as they needed for that one day, but not to save any of it until the next, because it would go mouldy. And God wanted his people to trust him every single day. Isn't that exciting? He wants us to do the same. Not because God is a long way off, but because he is very, very close to us. God is present. And he wanted his people to know that here all those years ago. And we're talking about 3,600 years ago. Wow, that's a long time. Well, when they arrived at this place, at the bottom of the mountain, lots of mountain, a mountain range called Sinai, Moses goes up the mountain, okay? So let's take him away here. Moses goes up the mountain. And while he's up there for a long time. In fact, 40 days and 40 nights. And the people are down below. And a big dark cloud comes, look at it, look at this, across the top of the mountain. And there's like thunder and there's lightning as Moses goes up the top. The people don't actually see him when he's up on top, but his assistant, Joshua, goes with him and stands at a distance and watches from a small place on the mountain where Moses goes and he meets with God. Wow, imagine that. There was lots and lots of noise as Moses was on that mountain, and God called Moses close to him. Well, whilst Moses was up there, Aaron was down below with all the people. And the people started to get impatient with with Aaron. And they started to say, Aaron, where's Moses gone? He's probably not coming back. And after a few weeks, they said to Aaron, Aaron, we don't know where that guy Moses has gone. We want you to be our leader. Let's make a god, an idol. And let's say that it is this idol that brought us out of Egypt. Do you know what? Aaron did as the people were saying. They gave Aaron their gold jewellery. They took off their earrings and they gave them their rings and all the other bits of gold. And Aaron made a calf, a golden calf. And the people bowed down to the calf and they said, this is our God who brought us out of Egypt. Can you imagine it? Moses was still up on the mountain and God was talking to him. God was giving him instructions. In fact, God was giving him what is today called the 10 Commandments. God's instructions. B-I-B-L-E, Bible. Best instructions before leaving earth. God's instructions. And you know what? There were 10 of them that God told Moses. And when he came down the mountain, Moses was to teach the people God's instructions. Would you like to know what they are? I'm going to tell you them one at a time. Okay, are you ready? So the first one is trust God. I don't think you can see that, it's back to front, isn't it? But it doesn't matter. Trust God alone. Make God the only God. The second one is to worship God alone. Only God. Because you see, there is only one God who made the heaven and the creation, the whole world. The third one is use God's name in ways that honour him. Don't swear or use God's name in a bad way. Number 4, keep the Sabbath day special. And for God's people, that was a Saturday. For Christians, we remember Sunday, the first day of the week, because Jesus rose from the dead, as a special day. In fact, all days are special. But Christians like to gather together whenever they can on the Sunday. They like to praise God and to worship him and to give him all the praise and glory. The next one is about our mum and dad, our parents, those who look after us. Respect and obey your parents, those who love you and look after you. Number 6, do not murder. Do not take someone else's life. Number 7, be true to your husband and wife. This means do not take somebody else's husband or wife when they're married, but respect marriage as God's plan for people. Okay, number 8, do not steal from other people. Do not steal. We know, don't we, today, that that is a wrong thing to do. Number 9, do not tell lies about others either. Because when we tell lies, the Bible tells us that the enemy of God is Satan, and he is called the father of lies. We don't want to follow what he says because God, the true God that loves us, lives in the truth. In fact, Jesus would say, I am the truth, the way, and the life. And the last one says to be satisfied with all that we have. And God wants us to be satisfied because he gives us all that we need. In fact, he will keep giving us things as we trust him. So on the mountain, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments and he told him to go down and teach the people. But also on the mountainside, God said, Moses, I want you to build me a tent when you go down. In fact, I want you to get all the stuff that's needed. And here's a list. God gave Moses a massive list of stuff that was needed to build God's special tent. The tent that would be put in the centre of the camp where all the people lived. And can you remember how many tribes there are? They're each named after the sons of Jacob. The sons of Jacob have died now because over 400 years have passed, but they still keep the same names. There are 12 of them. And you know, God told Moses to tell each of the tribes with all the people to camp, 3 of them to the north of God's special tent, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, and 3 to the west, so that all God's people would camp around the presence of God, and he would be at the centre of their lives. Isn't that special? God gave Moses all the instructions for that. He also told him how to build it. And he also said one of the tribes is to be separated from all the others. That is the tribe of Levi. Can you say Levi? Brilliant. Not jeans, Levi. Yeah, you get Levi jeans, don't you? And this tribe called Levi were to be the priests, or from the tribe of Levi would come the priests, and they would be the ones to help the people to worship God and to know God. They would be in charge of all the offerings and all the celebrations and all the Thanksgiving times and all the giving as well. You know, in churches on a Sunday, we often have an offering, and it's like a bag sometimes, or a plate or something that goes around, and people put their money in to the bag and they offer it to God for God's work. And you see, the people had to bring to Moses when he came down the mountain all the stuff that was on the list, and they would make God's special house. The other thing God said to Moses on the mountainside is this: I want you, when you go down, to count all the people, to count all of them in all of the tribes. So Moses came down the mountain. Here he comes. After 40 days and 40 nights, he comes down the mountain. And you know, he comes down with the 10 Commandments. But you know what he sees when he comes down? He finds Aaron has made this horrible idol, and all the people are worshipping. Moses is so angry. Here are the 10 Commandments as well. Do you know what he does? He's carrying the 10 Commandments and he throws them to the ground, and they break because he is so cross with what the people have done already. They have worshipped an idol. They've broken the first 2 commandments. Moses tells Aaron off. And you know, the golden calf is destroyed. In fact, it's ground down to powder. All the people are sorry. But you know what? One of the amazing things is that Aaron is to be the leader of the tribe of Levi. He is to be the one in charge of all of the other priests. In fact, he would be called the high priest, the very one who led the people, did what the people said, and sinned. Remember what sin is? S-I-N. It's when I do what I want to do and don't follow God's instructions. But God forgave Aaron, and look, this is him now, dressed as a priest, and they had to make his clothes in the desert. In fact, all the instructions for making Aaron's clothes were written on Moses' list, and the people were able to bring all the stuff that they brought out of Egypt, and it was just what was needed to build God's special tent and to make all the clothes and all the stuff that was needed for God's special house. And I think that Aaron would make a good high priest, because you know what? He'd already sinned badly himself. God had forgiven him, and he realised how much God had forgiven him, even though he didn't deserve it. And so he would help the people when they do things wrong to ask God to forgive them as well. And he would be one of those with his sons and the other priests who were from the tribe of Levi. We put them here, and their uniforms that they will be wearing as well. And they would help the people to be forgiven and know what to do when they did things wrong. Now, we're coming to the end now, and I want to show you what the tabernacle looked like. Okay, so here we go. This is what it would look like when it was finished. Can you see? Look at that. It was made. Here's a special tent here, and it had a fence around it made from different material as well. And all the people bought everything that was needed. Aaron and his brothers were in charge. His sons and the family were in charge of looking after this. They were the ones to help the people to worship God. There were 2 rooms in the tabernacle. And look, let me do this. This is what the rooms look like. This was the special Holy of Holies. It's where this special box called the Ark of the Covenant, a big box. In fact, I've got one upstairs, not the real one, but I might show you next week what it looked like when I tell the story. Because inside that box was kept the 10 commandments. The commandments that Moses would now teach all the people God's special instructions about how to follow him, how to love him, and how much he loves them as well. When that special box that was kept in this special room was carried, it was carried by the tribe of Levi, by the priests. Look, it was covered up when it was carried, when they had to move from place to place. So here's the picture of what happened at the bottom of the mountain in the desert, where all the people bought what was needed to build God's special house that would be at the very centre of the life of the people. And this would be like a picture of what would happen when Jesus would come. He would be the one that helps us to be forgiven for all the things that we do wrong, so that God could be at the centre of our lives too, and that we could worship him and we could enjoy him too. Hope you enjoyed that story. See you next time.